Everybody needs to learn generative AI. Everybody needs to understand how it works and what it means to their job field. Because education is changing. It has to change. The world has changed. It has been disrupted.
Welcome to our very first episode of Boldly Berkeley, the podcast that celebrates the excellence of Berkeley. What do you think of when you think of Berkeley? The name is known around the globe as a beacon for intellectual culture, progressive and ecological thinking, political activism, Nobel Prize winners, social awareness, and diversity. It's an unapologetically unique place, famous for a long history of thinking differently, challenging the status quo, and academic achievement. It's world-renowned for its food scene, and is an absolutely gorgeous place to be, with the Berkeley Hills, Tilden Park, and majestic views of the San Francisco Bay. But what makes it a truly special place are the people. We're here to highlight the people that make Berkeley the greatest place in the world. We produce on-camera interviews with the prominent people associated with the University of California and with the greater community at large. And we're on a mission to learn what makes Berkeley, Berkeley. My name is Reza Serafinejad, and it's my hope that watching and listening to our interviews will help you come away feeling more connected to this wonderful place that's unlike anywhere else on the planet. A lot is being said about artificial intelligence and the impact it will have on the world around us. Who are the people driving AI forward? And will it mean the end of the world? Well, in today's episode, you're going to love our discussion with an authority when it comes to AI. Dr. Napoleon Paxton is a leader in artificial intelligence and lecturer in UC Berkeley's Graduate School of Information. He's moderating a recurring event series called Berkeley Forward, Conversations on AI, presented by the Cal Alumni Association. The event features an all-star panel that has deep conversations about the future of artificial intelligence. The next event is coming up on Tuesday, November 18th at Alumni House, and the discussion will focus on how we can empower more people to build, experiment, and innovate using AI through shared tools and knowledge. The program begins with a mixer from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m., followed by a panel discussion and Q&A session. And I want to thank the Cal Alumni Association for sponsoring this show. Without its support, this show would never have become a reality. Stay tuned. We're going to begin our interview with Dr. Napoleon Paxton right now. It's our very first Boldly Berkeley episode, and have we got a real treat for you to kick it all off. Today, we get to sit down with one of the most prominent thought leaders when it comes to artificial intelligence. And guess what? He's a lecturer right here at the UC Berkeley School of Information, Dr. Napoleon Paxton. He serves as an executive at AI Squared, where he brings over 20 years of experience working with stakeholders within the U.S. federal marketplace. He's a former Marine, a computer scientist, and his expertise lies at the cross-section of cybersecurity and data science. Welcome, Dr. Paxton. We appreciate you making the time.
Of course. Thank you so much.
So I've only recently gotten to know you.
Yeah.
It's only been a couple of times. But you seem like such a wonderfully engaging and charismatic individual, right? And so with all this concern about AI and the impact it's going to have on society, you don't necessarily seem like the kind of guy who's leading all of us to our doom.
I love that. Yes, I do not think we're going to our doom. I know if you talk to certain AI leaders, some people will disagree with me. However, the human element, we're still part of the human element is still a key cog in that pipeline to actually have AI do anything. So as long as we're still plugged in, I think we're going to be okay.
Sure. Well, yeah, and it's a tool, right? It's a tool
exactly
that we can use. Hopefully we use it in a beneficial and good way, right?
Yes.
So that's just it. And so what first sparked your interest in artificial intelligence, and how did you become a thought leader?
You know, when you said thought leader, I was like, who is he talking about? Me? My goodness. But I know in our first panel, and we'll talk about the panel series we have here at Berkeley later, but first panel, the very first thing we started talking about was like imposter syndrome, right? And we all kind of have it. We just, it's probably good to kind of hone it in. And the reason why I say that is because I accept that. I think finally getting to the point where, turning into a thought leader. So, but hopefully that means, doing something positive for the field. I'll leave that at
Absolutely.
that. But to answer your question, so I think officially I first got excited about artificial intelligence when I was in my PhD program. So it was about 2010. So if you think 2010 is right before deep learning really took off with ImageNet and then AlexNet that really they really showed the power of neural networks and research took off from there. But again, I was in that 2010 time frame where there wasn't a lot of machine learning or deep learning capabilities. So, trying to get my PhD thesis ready. And I had the fortune of being a founding member of the HoneyNet Alliance. The UNC HoneyNet Alliance it was based in Charlotte. And we were able to get all of this data from cybersecurity attacks. So back up here for a second. The HoneyNet Alliance is an international organization that basically monitors attackers online.
Oh, I see.
And with the goal of just basically monitoring them, learning their techniques and tactics and procedures, TTPs for those that don't know that, in order to come up with defenses, really trying to be proactive. A lot of times we're being, reactive, but I was able to get access to a lot of data. So I needed to analyze that data. And the first thing I saw was machine learning, but, there were no classes for me at the time in
Right.
machine learning. So, I tried to learn on my own. That was tough. And I didn't want to extend my PhD another year or so. So I ended up using something called community detection, which based on the Louvain method, is clustering-based method. But that's where I first got interested. As I matriculated, graduated, I was a scientist at the Naval Research Laboratory in Washington, D.C. I never lost that desire to want to use machine learning. Now, this is about 2012. So now I got a little bit of gas in my tank because ImageNet and AlexNet had really taken off, right? And so I'm pitching these ideas for the US government. I'm like, hey, we really need to use machine learning for our cyber use cases.
Sure.
And it's like, where are you going to get the expertise for that? We're not going to send you to school. You just came out of your PhD program. And we don't have a lot of resources here. Now, people were working on it in certain areas, but not the area where I was at. So I had to go. I went to the high schools. So I actually went in Virginia, Prince William County. I thank you for your students. Also, Thomas Jefferson, one of the top high schools in the country, year in, year out. Some of the best machine learning classes were right there. So I would grab their students and have them do internship projects for me. And I would present these things. I'm like, see. And it was like, those are interns. Yeah. So I'll stop there, but because I know we're probably getting them a little bit more of that later on in some of the questioning.
Sure.
But that really, I was like, you know what? We have all this structured data. And like I was mentioning earlier to you before we started, computers are really good at analyzing structured data. And you have humans who are really good at coming up with the context. So if you have the humans, working on the context for the data to train these models, it just made sense to me that machine learning would be the way to go for the future.
Right.
So, but
Wow.
nobody really saw it back then.
Well, that's really interesting how that all comes together. And like you take these areas of knowledge and then you think about the direction that everything is going in and you kind of figure out how to piece it all together, and that helps explain quite a bit. So very, very interesting. And so you earned a Master's of Information and Data Science degree here at UC Berkeley.
Yes.
And you also took a certificate program at the Haas School of Business, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
in what ways do you feel UC Berkeley has helped shape you into the person you are today? And how has it influenced your perspective on AI and its societal impact?
Oh my goodness. I always, I have to pause when I read this question before. You mentioned Haas. I'll start there because that was my first formal introduction to Berkeley. So I was working at this mid-size AI. I mean, it wasn't really an AI company. It was more of a services company. I started the AI practice there, and the owner and the founder, he said, "I want you to go out west and bring back some of that Silicon Valley culture."
Mm-hmm.
So initially, I looked and I saw Professor Andrew Wing in Stanford. He had a program there. So I started some master's classes there. Loved it. Loved the professor and, great guy. But the classes were very large and I had just had like a tragedy in my family, you know, where it really affected how I interacted with people, reaching out to students and being in those study groups where I had to be the one that did all of the reaching out. And it just didn't work out for me. Even though I did well, it didn't work out at that time. And I ended up in between breaks of the semester, I ended up enrolling in the Innovative Organization program at Haas. And it was an on-campus program. We had a very tight cohort. We were taught by a lot of the professors from the Haas Business School. They even brought in entrepreneurs. They took us on tours of the campus. It was just like, and I needed that, number one, mentally, dealing with my tragedy that I was going through. But also, I was just like, oh my goodness, these guys are accepting me as one of them. And I just loved it. So it really shaped my thoughts of Berkeley at that point.
Sure.
And after that program, I ended up switching over and going to the MIDS program, graduating from there with the master's program. Yes.
Nice. Well, we're so glad that you remain so connected to Berkeley, even
Yes.
though you live in Washington, D.C.,
Yes.
right? So, I mean,
Yes.
that's quite a commute.
It is. It is. AI Squared. We are headquartered in Palo Alto.
Gotcha.
So when I come out here, I get to do a lot of business activity as well.
Sure. No, that makes
Yeah.
sense. So what areas of AI are you most excited about? And how do you think AI may impact society within the next 5 to 10 years? I'm sure you get asked that question.
All the time. All the time. And I think this might be a surprising answer to some folks, but I think I am most excited about how AI is shrinking the last mile gap. So, and what I mean by that, at Berkeley, actually, there's a class that I teach in the School of Information called Research Design and Applications for Data Analytics. We call it RADATA for short, because it's such a long.
That's a pretty long name,
It's
right?
such a long name. But basically what that class is, we call it like an MBA for data scientists, right? Where it's like basically it teaches engineers, because we have a brain that we want to just sit in our corner and code and things like that. But it teaches us to influence our upper level stakeholders. But in that class, we have a module that focused on the last mile gap. And, it's like 100-year-old problem. It's, where you have something that works. And we know, the engineers know it worked. The people who build it know it worked, will work to solve an unmet need or a problem. However, there are barriers in the way of that last mile. So overcoming those barriers has always been very, very difficult. But with this current age of AI, generative AI, now it's making the tool so good that we're able to overcome those barriers and get to that last mile. Now, there's still a problem. There's still a problem because you've heard of shadow AI.
I have.
To give you not to go into full, detail of the definition, but basically shadow AI is now that generative AI is so easy for everyone to use. Everyone tries to use so many different tools
Right.
in their organization, and they're unauthorized. Sometimes they increase the threat surface, and sometimes they just don't work, for what you're trying to do. But now you have all of this technical debt, all this bloat. So it is actually making the last mile even worse, right? Even though you can use the models. So in order to actually get them into your front-end applications, right? That's still a challenge. And actually that's one of the things that we're working on at our company.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you're leading right into the next question, which is what you're currently doing with AI Squared.
Oh, yeah.
And what are you doing to help to address some of the ethical concerns that so many people have about the application of AI?
Again, that's another age-old thing where, when technology starts to take off, you have to really consider, should we do certain things, right? And if you're doing it, why? But to answer your question, I am an executive at AI Squared, and I do a lot of customer engagement. As you can see, I like talking to people. I love hearing unmet needs, which may not be a problem yet, but will easily turn into a problem if you allow them to stay unmet, or pain points or things that can, immediately help them. Thankfully, AI squared is very horizontal, and we, are able to attack many verticals trying to deliver those insights into their front end applications. So, it allows me to really talk about a lot of different things, but I love talking to people and talking about the problems. But I also do a lot of volunteering. I do a lot of teaching.
Do you find the time for all this?
Well, they're all,
you got a couple of kids at home too, right?
And they're also part of my. They don't like it, but I make sure that they understand generative AI as well, and
Sure.
that kind of feeds into what I'm doing about addressing ethical concerns. Really, what I try to do is educate people on how generative AI is actually constructed, and not just generative AI, because there's, discriminative AI, which is more predictive, which is honestly most AI that people use. They just don't think about it. That, you want to know if I do this and this is what's going to happen. That's really more predictive than generative. But I try to explain the different parts of AI. So it'll kind of demystify what AI is. And then with that, you start to understand, should I give this data to the models for training or for prompting, for inference? Definitely PII, which is personally identifiable information. You always want to, be very careful if you're going to give that type of data to any type of model anyway, or any type of application, because you don't know where that's going to go. People are also concerned with, these models being unfair to disadvantaged people, or, it just being unfair. And what I tell people, again, when you learn how the models are made, what you start to understand is the actual results are based on the data that you feed it. So just try to demystify what it is, try to educate. That's really how I'm addressing the ethics piece.
Right. Well, that seems like the best way to try to approach that. And I know it's challenging, but getting back to UC Berkeley, what role do you think UC Berkeley is playing or could play in the future of AI innovation? Because it seems like, especially with our chancellor, Rich Lyons, and all the different types of startups that are being nurtured here around UC Berkeley, it certainly seems like that's a area that is only going to grow exponentially, right? And do you see a unique culture or mindset at Berkeley that influences how people here approach AI?
I do. And it kind of goes back to why I switched over from Stanford. I love Stanford, by the way. But why I switched over from Stanford to Berkeley, I know. But there is a culture of inclusiveness, of I actually care about what you're trying to say and, what you're trying to do. And I think, everyone that I talk to, no matter what level they're at, they're always so willing to help and willing to move the needle forward. So I think that culture is a Berkeley culture. And I definitely think our chancellor does a great job of cultivating that culture. Well, how is Berkeley going to be involved? I think Berkeley has been involved from the beginning, and it's just growing even larger. So I was at an event yesterday. This is homecoming weekend. I don't know when this is going to actually air, but I was at this event, Shaping Our AI Future, and it was with Jennifer Chase and Andy Konowinski, both giants in this field, right? Jennifer was talking about how the governor of California had her on the panel or on the committee to create policy that, both Republicans and Democrats agreed to. I mean, we can stop right there.
Yeah.
we can stop.
Agree to?
Not just create that policy, but to get, two groups that don't agree about pretty much anything right now to agree that this policy is something that can move AI forward. I think that we can stop right there with her. And Andy, is a serial entrepreneur. He leads a venture capital firm, but he's also, co-founder in Databricks, Perplexity, and the list goes on.
That's huge.
But he's still in the classroom teaching.
Amazing. Right.
Like people like him, Jan Stoker, these folks, again, it's the Berkeley culture. It's the Berkeley culture. And I think that mindset of always wanting to cultivate minds to change the world, I think is something that, it's definitely Berkeley.
There you go. No, that's nicely said. I think that's definitely something that runs through every student who's ever walked here on campus,
Yes,
right? It's
yes.
a big
You
part
can
of it.
feel it
So
when you walk on campus.
you really
Yes,
can. You really
absolutely.
can. That's great. So, yeah, well, talking about students, I mean, what advice would you give to students who want to get involved in AI?
Yes. Number one advice is start. You just start. And I know it sounds easier than, to actually do it, but there's so many resources out there now that, and it's delivered in different ways. And I know we're going to talk about the panel here in a second, but I would say start very, very small. See something succeed, and then move on from there. Now, in a perfect world, you would start small in something that you're passionate about or something that is part of your major. If there's data that's available to actually build something. And when I say start small and go ahead and start, I'm not talking about go to Chat GPT and start asking questions or Perplexity and start asking questions. Now, they're great for tools and research, but no, actually go and build something. Models, you can build small models, do some supervised fine tuning, forget about the pre-trained unless you're really trying to get your hands there, because you can do that now as well
Wow.
with some of the smaller large language models. But I would say look into some supervised fine tuning. I think the barrier has gotten to a point where anybody can do that now.
It's really interesting. I have to look into that myself. I guess, and
Yes,
get my daughter on that track.
absolutely. Look, I got mines on them. They're 9 and 13. So, honestly, we got to start them now. Yeah,
Right, right. It certainly seems like it's the wave of the future, that's for sure.
absolutely.
And so you've been kind of spearheading this discussion series that's been hosted by the Cal Alumni Association, Berkeley Forward, Conversations on AI.
Yes.
Can you please tell us a little bit about that and how that's all going?
Oh, absolutely. So we just had our first panel with Peter Norvig, Michael Rivera. We had Robert Strong as my panelists, and they did an amazing job. So Peter Norvig, if those that don't know him, he along with Stuart Russell wrote like the seminal book on artificial intelligence that everyone used for many, many years when we were using textbooks, right? I actually have a second edition that Peter signed. I'm looking for Stuart to sign it as well. But Peter's great. He's a friend of mine now. But the thing about this panel and this conversation is we try to not make it so much about building the models, even though that's part of it. We do talk a little bit about the tech, and we have focus groups to go deeper into the tech. But for the actual panel, again, we're trying to make it real. And really, we're targeting the fields that are outside of science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM fields, because everybody needs to learn generative AI. Everybody needs to understand how it works and what it means to their job field, because education is changing. It has to change. The world has changed. It has been disrupted. And now we're here. So now, I think this panel's place for this time is all about demystifying it and making it a little bit more digestible for everybody, to be honest. But I still believe there's a place for the deeply technical person who wants to hear it a different way and maybe even say, hey, you're right here. But if we say it differently, that's something I want to also emphasize. We get so stuck on being right all the time. I want to kind of disrupt that in this panel. So we're going to we have a Jupyter notebook. We have a GitHub hosted code that people can contribute to. So as things are changing, people can submit pull requests and things like that. Hey, change this. We're going to have a committee to review it. And if we agree, then we'll change it. You can make, contributions. So the panel is going to also do that as well. So the focus is really more on generally understanding AI and having conversations in AI with luminaries across the field. Some Berkeley, some not, but it's also going to dig in technically as well with the focus groups.
Yeah, well, no, that's great. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go to that very first one. And I mean, man, it's like you guys just went on and talked and covered so many different things. And it was just wonderful and
Thank
very
you.
wonderfully attended as well. But we encourage all of you to register for the next one. It's coming up in November.
November 18th. Yes.
There you go, November 18th. And you certainly want to catch more of this guy, as you can see. It is so much fun.
This is
I
fun.
didn't know that AI could be this much fun.
Well, I appreciate that. When you're passionate about anything, you can kind of just sit and talk about it.
Well, hey, but thank you so much, Dr.
Of
Paxton.
course.
Really appreciate
Of
you.
course.
All right.
Thank you.
Fiat Lux. Go Bears.
Yes, Fiat Lux. Go Bears. Go Bears.
That's going to do it for this inaugural episode of Boldly Berkeley. Thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to bringing you our next episode highlighting another prominent person who helps make Berkeley such a great place. We don't yet have a release date for that episode, but please follow us on social media to be on the lookout for when it drops. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Please share us with all your friends. And you can always simply go to boldlyberkeley.com to watch our episodes on YouTube. This is Reza Serafinejad signing off, reminding all of you that in our world today, it's no time to sit back and tune out. It's time to be bold and to lean into what makes Berkeley such an amazing and inspirational place for so many of us. It's time to be boldly Berkeley.